Hello, welcome back to the NOTCAST, episode 277. Today is the 30th of March 2023. And as you will probably have worked out by the lighting in here, it is now British summertime. We've gone forward 1 hour in the future, which means we lost a whole hour on Saturday night. I was out on Saturday night and and then all of a sudden it was 1 o'clock. And then because the clocks went forward to 2 o'clock, all of a sudden everything was over, which was a shocker. Lost a whole hour. Of course, in the days when I used to go out to clubs and stay out late, my favourite night of the year was October, or the middle of October, whenever it went into winter time, because then the clubs would stay open for an hour longer and you go from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. So you get an extra hour's dancing, an extra hour's drinking, an extra hour to make a fool of yourself. And if you were single, to meet people, and if you weren't single, to not meet people. That, of course, is a very, very long time ago now. Nowadays, I'm tucked up in bed with my Horlicks by about 1 a.m. I've always been a night owl. Nobody is perfect. I think we gave morning people far too much power, truth be told. And they look at like the virtue of being up early, and I'm sat there going, the sun's not even got up. Why are you getting up? Doesn't make any sense. But there you are. I've always been somebody that's been drawn to the darkness of the night, like a silly old goth. Not that I am, of course. I haven't done one of these for 12 days, which is, I think, the longest gap I've had in quite a while. I have been busy. So I have been out 3 evenings in the meantime. So this time, well, more correctly, about a week ago, I saw Underworld at the Royal Albert Hall and play a show for the Teenage Cancer Trust. That was mega. And I'll talk about that later. But, oh my words, I miss seeing that band. There are a number of bands that during COVID I was like, if I get to see this band, because I never knew if I was going to get to stand in a room and see the bands again, but if I get to see this band, I know that I've come out the other side of this thing, and I've made it through to the other side. Yeah, those bands were like U2, Suede, the Twilight Sads, Underworld, probably my big four, big five. I would have thought maybe New Order or Pet Shop Boys. Now, I haven't seen Pet Shop Boys yet, but I will do. But I've seen all the others. And so today, episode 277, I'm going to be talking about U2's new studio record, released a couple of weeks ago. It is called Songs of Surrender. And here I have the cassette, silver vinyl, well, more correctly, clear vinyl expanded edition, 4 CD version of it, alongside the t-shirt which birthed the album cover. So Songs of Surrender is the first proper U2 studio record that isn't going to get a tour, although they are of course going to be playing Vegas, of which I have thoughts. And also it's going to be the first U2 album where I don't have a tour related t-shirt for quite a while. The last time I didn't have a tour related t-shirt for U2 goes back to, I think, 1985's Unforgettable Fire Tour when I was 12. And of course, not into music. I wasn't into girls or boys or anything else. I was just into movies at that point. So this is Songs of Surrender, U2's latest studio album, which has, I mean, I think it's fair to say, very, very divisive for the people in the fan base. And as a content warning, I'm probably going to get a little bit deep about things like mortality and stuff later on, because fear of mortality or awareness of mortality runs through this album like a stick of rock. The first thing I will do, I'll just talk about the cover art to start with. I do not like the cover art for this record, primarily because if you look at that, obviously 3 of the photos there are from 1997 of the Edge, Adam and Larry, also appearing in a slightly different form on my Pop Mart t-shirt here. And then also a picture of Bono from 1985. It doesn't make any sense to me to put the cover art for an album that was recorded in 2021 to have the cover art to be 36 years old. Hence the picture of Bono there. Or 25 years old, the cover art for the other photographs. There were some excellent photos that were taken during the Innocence and Experience period that would have ideally fit in with the themes of Songs of Surrender. And those themes being, of course, age, innocence, experience, and making sense of life as you look at it backwards. So there is that cliche, or more correctly, there is that quote from the philosopher, I think it's called Søren Kierkegaard. Let me start again. Søren Kierkegaard, who was lived between 1815 and 1853, who said life can only be lived forwards but can only be understood backwards. And since this album is a selection of between 16, 20 and 40 re-recordings of U2 songs from every period of their career, it seems to me to be an album that is making sense of what happened historically, using the benefit of time, wisdom and experience. And as you will know, if you're a U2 fan, 2014 Songs of Innocence and 2017 Songs of Experience are albums that are very clearly steeped in understanding and reconciling oneself to one's history. And then the third album, Songs of Surrender, can be kind of seen as the third part of that, so a triptych, so to speak, with the band kind of approaching these songs from the perspective of, if these were U2 songs and if these were new U2 songs, how would you approach them? How would you record them? How would you arrange them? And I think where people have gone, I think, a little bit wrong, it's been very divisive. Some people really, really hate this stuff because they want to have that big rock album that Bono's been talking about for absolutely ages. Other people want U2 to make a record that is reflective of who they are. This is not a big artistic statement, despite the fact that there have been 12 vinyl editions of the album, and the longest version of the record lasts for 2 hours 46 minutes. It's, I suppose, probably the best way of describing it is, like a lot of acts, it's a lockdown project. It's a way of maintaining a degree of creativity and activity whilst we have been locked in our homes, unable to communicate and sit in the same room as our family and our friends. Lots of bands have done similar stuff. Immediately thinking The Wedding Present have done that. And I think Miles Hunt has done some of those as well. And I'm sure there are other bands that I don't like that have done exactly the same thing. And this is about, as an album, I think it is what it is. If you want a great new artistic statement from U2, this is not it. This is four men revisiting their past, seeing the work from the past, and seeing what parts of those songs and what parts of the realities that they had at those times have they taken into the future and taken into the present day. It's kind of like when you look at, anybody looks at the awareness of the history and the lives that they've had and the things that they've gone through over the years that they've been alive, and they look at those and they kind of go, so this is who I am now. This is where you can find me, or where you can reach me now. This is not, who I was. These are the parts of me that I have taken with me into the future from the past. And as those of you know, I have a very good relationship, or more correctly, a very active relationship to my history. Primarily, all of it is sat on the shelves behind here. And I suddenly realised it's getting rather dark. At some point, I'm going to have to go away from the dramatic lighting. I'm going to have to switch the light on, and then it'll be used to that lovely warm neon glow that we're all used to from everything else. But in the meantime, here's a bit of British summertime whilst it fades away. As an album, I think Songs of Surrender is very, very good, very useful. Certainly when we get into being into the future and go, well, would you have rather had this album or not? Firstly, can you imagine how annoyed the fan base would have been if somebody said, oh yeah, there's 40 U2 re-recordings of their material, of their older songs, which they decided not to release. We go, how dare they? The second part of it would be, you don't have to like a band's new material. You just have to have the option to be able to like it or not like it. I know some people really dislike it. Some people really do like it. I'm very much in the thumbs up camp. I absolutely love this record, and I love this record for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons that I don't love the record is I'm not expecting a new U2 album. I have no expectations that U2 would make a new record. I have no expectations that there would be new material. And I have no hopes for bands when they get older and they do make new material. You think about some of the bands that are still going, in their 60s and their 70s, and the new stuff sucks. The REM went through a period where their new material was pretty ropey. Depeche Mode did exactly the same. The Rolling Stones undoubtedly do. Acts that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years. Very rarely do you get to 30, 40, 50 years in and are still making stuff that's as good as it was when you started off. And you think about the bands that have gone rubbish over time. Some of them, of course, weren't any good to start with, but the bands that have gone rubbish over time, or whose work has, I think it's fair to say, deteriorated in urgency over time, is quite depressing, really. You know, the Manic Street Preachers, who I absolutely loved at one point, have become just another band. You know, New Order's stuff has pretty much dried up. You know, Pink Floyd's material is nowhere near as prolific as it once was. The Rolling Stones, Depeche, some of that stuff is not as good as it once was. And you kind of go, are you making music because you want to? Or are you making music out of habit? Are you mistaking saying something with having something to say? And that's a kind of depressing period to be in as a U2 fan, or as a fan of any band as they get older. But I'd much rather have the opportunity to listen to their new material and not like it, rather than not have new material to listen to at all. Now I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to put the light on, because frankly it's getting dark and gloomy and doomy. And whilst that's a very dramatic bit of lighting, it's not good for you to look at. Be right back. There we are, and I'm back in the room. Don't know why I didn't do that sooner, but there you go. Probably because I thought I'd take advantage of the remaining British light, but there wasn't obviously very much of it. So Songs of Surrender is a 4 CD and 40 song release. It's also available as a quadruple vinyl, double vinyl, a cassette, and it comes in 16 and 20 track configurations as well. If you buy the 40 track version of the album, here's the CD edition, you are getting every note released from the period. If you buy the 2 LP versions, be careful which one if you buy the 2 LP versions, be careful which one you go for, because there are 12 different vinyl editions of Songs of Surrender, and 11 of them have 16 tracks on, one of them has 20 tracks on. I've bought the vinyl edition with 20 tracks on. There is also, for some bizarre reason, a cassette that these are back in fashion and in vogue. This has 16 songs on. So even though I have 3 copies of the album in 3 different formats, they all have different track listings. So the 40 song version is the one to go for. That's the version I am going to be talking about. I'm going to talk about formatting now for a minute. So the standard 16 track version here features, it basically leads towards the man's earlier material. So this has one, Where the Streets Have No Name, Stories for Boys, Walk On, Pride, City of Blinding Lights, Ordinary Love, Invisible, Vertigo, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, The Fly, If God Will Send His Angels, Stay, Sunday Bloody Sunday, I Will Follow, and 40. And of those songs, by the way, only I think 3 or 4 have been released this millennia. It's also, by the way, first time for on a standard U2 album, LP, standard configurations, going to release for Ordinary Love and Invisible on a proper non-deluxe U2 album. The 20-track version, which is available as an expanded CD, or if you ordered it from the band's web store, clear vinyl, here features the same running order, but adds Beautiful Day, Red Hill Mining Town, Until the End of the World, With or Without You on there as well. And this is a double vinyl clear LP. So let's go through the packaging and have a look and see what we've got. Apart from the fact that I don't like the cover art because it's not contemporary, it really should have been photographs of the band now, or at least very recognisably in very recent history. So you've got, there's I think 12 vinyl editions of the LP. This is the web store exclusive version from U2.com. You could have bought a version that was in green and white with 16 tracks, which was for I think the Boston someone or others, whoever they are, Boston Celtics. You could have bought a copy in blue and yellow from the Notre Dame University. Sirius XM did a sea green version. The Spear in Vegas had a red version. The Indies have a white one. Spotify had a green one. Amazon came in orange. U2.com had a purple splatter vinyl, and there was also a blue vinyl edition, as well as your standard black vinyl and your 4 LP versions. So if you buy every version of it, you will have ended up with something like 17 different versions of the album. Let's be blunt, bloody rip-off that, isn't it? Doesn't make any sense. I don't know why people would have done it. And this comes in a gatefold sleeve, but since my gatefold sleeve is inside a record sleeve and shrink wrap, I haven't been in there. So let's go into Songs of Surrender. Disc 1. Here is a photograph of the edge, and and Larry there, and your clear vinyl, 5 tracks each side, replicating your photos from the band. And you also have your second set, your second disc, which has there's the Atom and U2's Songs of Surrender. And I really don't like the cover art. And then also there's a lyric booklet here. This version is silver and reflective with the white flag on the back, and of course the white flag being the symbol of surrender. So visually it's quite well presented actually as a release. It works very well in that respect. It really, you look at it and it feels like it's an album. Although my partner did say, it looks very 90s, doesn't it? And I'm kind of going, well, yeah. And it shouldn't look 90s. So why the band should have more contemporary photographs on the cover of the record. And then there's the 4 CD version here. This is the version which I think most of us should be getting for. This is numbered. My copy is 91,165. If you're feeling particularly stalky. And it comes in a kind of like an embossed sleeve that then folds out. And what I do like actually about this is that these are relatively modern photos. So I think these were taken in 2017 during the band's Jock Retreat tour of South America. These, of course, on the inside weren't. I don't quite know why they were there. But these are. And also, what I do like is the look on Adam's face there as well. And by the way, those 2 chaps there that work at hospitality at the hotel, not the first time that people that aren't U2 members have appeared on the cover of a U2 album. I think that they're on Achtung Baby, actually, as well. So we've got 4 CDs, but we've also got 2 booklets. So let's go through the booklets. Again, photograph taken at the hotel. I quite like this one. And then a lyric sheet that's in there that folds out, and a note from the edge, which I think I might get to read into later on. There's another photograph of the 4 guys in a courtyard. I do get the impression that U2 do take photos on a fairly regular basis without really having a purpose for them, just in case. There's a photograph of them again. Actually, you'll notice that when you look at these, the configuration of the layouts of the members is that Adam is almost always on the far left, and Larry is next to Bono in every single one of the photos. So if any of you conspiracy theorists want to look into that, I suspect you probably shouldn't. And then the booklet that comes with CDs 3 and 4 again features lyrics, a list of the band's respective chosen charities, and other bits that goes in it. And there's a note here from the edge. Now, this album was announced in quite an interesting way, with 40 letters that were sent to 40 people in the fan base that were numbered between 1 and 40. And the letter tells a story. It's effectively a handwritten version of the note that's in here, which is when a song becomes well known, it's associated with a particular voice. And so what happens when the voice develops new tonalities as experience and maturity give it additional resonance? Really interesting idea. These aren't re-recordings that exist for some contractual, commercial, copyright reason. This is the band looking at the songs that they regard as key songs during the courses of their lives, and then taking those songs and going, what does it mean now? What does it mean for us to be who we are now? What does it mean? What does a song like Stories for Boys mean when you're in your 60s? And the note in here also says that it's true for us, and particularly true for Bono, that we've been around long enough to know what it feels like and sounds like, and that much of our work was written and recorded when we were a bunch of very young men. And these songs mean something quite different to us now. Some have grown with us and some of us we have outgrown, but we have not lost sight of what it was that made us write these songs in the first place. And that's a really interesting point. If you had a song like One or Where the Streets Have No Name, rather than replicating the version of it that you recorded 35 or 40 years ago, if it was a new song now, how would you approach it? It really reminds me of, I think there's a precedent of re-recording and revisiting old material with people like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan, who recently re-recorded, I think, Blowing in the Wind, those type of things. And to look at those songs and go, what does that song mean now? And some of the lyrics to some of the songs are by Bono's voice unfinished. So there are new lyrics in a number of the songs. Where the Streets Have No Name, for example, Walk On. I think Pride has some different lyrics as well. Beautiful Day has different lyrics. But they're songs which have a different meaning now that you listen to them as an older person. There are of the 40 songs that were on there. You could hear kind of sneak previews of most of those 40 songs if you got the audiobook edition of Bono's Surrender autobiography. And there are 28 of the songs that are on the song titles in this autobiography that have a place in this album. So, which means that there are 12 songs which you haven't heard in any form and don't appear in the Surrender book. Now, the audiobook, what that also means is that there are 12 songs which there are versions on the audiobook which aren't on the album. And they are either live versions or remixes. So Iris, for example, has a live version on the audiobook. October is an instrumental version, which sounds very, very much like the version from the soundtrack album. They call it An Accident, which has a remix of October on it, or their LP mixes. So there's a couple of tracks on Surrender, the audiobook, specifically The Showman and Landlady, which don't appear on this, which are important songs, but effectively have remixes and re-edits of the LP mixes on there. And it's easy to think that a lot of people look at U2 and they think, well, it's, Bono and the Edge and the other guys don't do anything. And I think part of that is probably driven by a degree of creativity, in so much as it's Bono and the Edge who do the main voice and guitar piano elements of these arrangements. Adam's adding bass, which is not always on every track, some or most of them, and Larry playing remotely, playing a stripped down kit in a very relaxed jazz style. Those of you who have been paying super close attention to the U2 fandom will know that Larry has had to have some surgery, or will be having some surgery to address some drumming injuries, and can't thwack the tubs, to use a technical phrase, quite to the way he used to, and so therefore the arrangements are very relaxed and stripped back and played on brushes and things. But they follow the broad templates of the songs, but they're different arrangements. And if you can play, you're playing in the jazz style or playing a more relaxed acoustic style, it's very, very different to being a balls out drummer who makes a great big whack it. And so this is U2 taking their body of work and stripping it from the packaging, the performance, the artifice, the video screens, the statements, and going, these are just the songs. And it sounds like, and some of you won't like this analogy because you think Bono's a prat, it sounds like U2 are quietly whispering in your ear at the end of a night, serenading you with the songs and showing you what the songs really are. Now, almost effectively U2 doing a covers album of songs that they had written as previous people. Now I think about, for example, Pet Shop Boys, always on my mind. One of the best cover versions of all time. That's a disco banger. No ifs, no buts. Absolutely classic disco banger. But at the heart of it, there's this delicate song about having a broken heart. And this is what these songs are, is that it's taking actually all of the wrapping away and just showing you the gift. Just showing you what the song is and what the song could be. Not thinking about it has to have a guitar arpeggio, it has to have, a Memory Man echo box on it. It doesn't have to have a bounding drum beat. It can just be the song as it is in its most naked and intimate form. And that's really, really important. Now, I know Bono said intimacy is the new punk rock. That's a load of bollocks. Don't trust him. But intimacy is actually the thing that all art aspires to, is to communicate between two people, between the listener and the performer, between the audience and the artist. To go, there's something that I'm going to communicate to you, an idea, a thought, a concept, a feeling, whatever it is. That is what art does. It communicates something. Even if in the case of Die Hard 5, which no one could claim would be art, the idea that's been communicated is, I want to separate you from your money whilst you watch explosions. It's communicating something. And that is what art does when it does things at its best. It shows familiar things from new angles and different approaches, and it opens up your eyes to the art of the possible. So, as I said, these are songs written by young men, now being revisited by old men, trying to understand, looking in the rearview mirror and understanding their life and how they've got to where they are. And I've said this a number of times, is that you don't know where you are if you don't know where you've come from. You don't know where to go next if you don't know where you are. If you don't understand history, you don't understand anything. Really, everything is purely transient and temporary if you don't understand history. And this is 4 men seeing from now the parts of them that they had then. Some of the songs that they wrote and recorded way back when wouldn't be suitable for an acoustic album. I think I would struggle with Lemon as an acoustic track, for example. But that said, this does have Stay and Dirty Day on it. I would struggle with Elevation, because that's a very, very basic song. That's not on here. But you do have Beautiful Day and Walk On and Peace on Earth. What you have is 4 people that were separated by distance, separated by health, making sense of the past, looking at the past and not quite like not in a therapy way, but in a narrative way, is understanding how they've got to where they are today. It's a re-examination of what U2 are and what U2 could be. Asking the basic questions is, when you take everything else away, who am I? What was I? How can that meet now? How can I make sense of who I used to be? And it's fair to say, if you hadn't done that during lockdown, you probably wasted the time. I spent a lot of time during lockdown examining, thinking about and reviewing kind of key parts of who I am, who I was, and making sure that I had a good relationship to everything else in my life. And I've been through some very scary experiences over the past couple of years, and some very profound ones as well. As you probably know, I was really poorly, and that changed. It was a life-changing event for me. And I'm not the same guy. I can't be the same guy. I think about that daily. And at the same point, I also have tried to get a good relationship to who I am and my body and my soul and the person that I am, and try to make sure that I've got a good relationship with that. And that's what U2 are doing with these songs, is they're trying to make sure that they have a good, healthy relationship with the past by doing these songs. So, although I don't really articulate it, I don't like my face or my hair or my physical appearance. I don't think I'm, particularly irresistible at all, would be the nice way of putting it. I have insecurities about things like that. I have insecurities about my weight and my hair and my appearance and my health and all the parts of my life. And there are points when you kind of think, is what's happening, whatever it is that's happening, is what's happening a result of the fact that are these insecurities correct and right to feel? And that is a monster that eats at you every day if you're not careful. And you kind of think, are people just being nice? Or are people actually nice? Or, am I a monster or whatever? And so you need to have a good relationship to that. And it doesn't always happen, of course. So I don't quite know where I was going to go with all of that. This is U2 looking at themselves, examining themselves and their work, and asking big questions around what is it to be a U2 song? Is Where the Streets Have No Name made out of that pretty inventive drum track and that guitar arpeggio? But if you take those out, it's still Where the Streets Have No Name, isn't it? Like when you listen to the opening of Where the Streets Have No Name on this, even though it doesn't have the same chords, it doesn't have the same keys, it doesn't have the same guitar parts, you listen to it and you can see that the underlying song inside there still exists. Something like One, for example, you go, that's still One, it's just a slightly different version of One. A song like Stories for Boys, for example, which, by the way, is sung by Edge. Edge sings on 3 songs on this album, specifically Stories for Boys, Two Hearts Beat as One, and I think there's another one as well that he sings the lead on. It might be Sometimes You Can't Make It On Your Own or something like that. And you kind of go, well, actually, his voice is very underrated. It's often used as a texture. But if there wasn't a U2 and he was just a singer-songwriter, he'd be very well respected. Probably wouldn't be selling a huge amount. And he'd be very well respected. And so these songs have a different flavour when they're performed acoustically. I like them, but they are... I had a really powerful moment the other day, actually, when I had a phone call, and I've had some health worries, and I've been very worried about that. When you get to a certain age, you kind of go, is it a bad back or is it going to kill you? You know, is this normal or is this not normal? I was really waiting on some test results because I was quite worried about what my body was doing and whether it was doing what I thought it should be doing. And I wouldn't have been fun to be around on the NOTCAST. I would have been sat there just going, oh, I'm so worried about the baggage retrieval system at Heathrow and everything else that goes with it. So I had the phone call and they told me that, you know, my liver was fine, my kidney was fine, my heart was fine, I didn't have any diabetes, my B12s and my vitamins were all good. The only thing I did have was a high ferritin count, which was because I was fighting an infection. But I was sat there, and sometimes in your body you kind of go, this isn't right. You know, I don't feel like I normally feel. So I feel like there was something that was wrong with this ugly bag of mostly water that I'm driving. And just remember, you're a ghost driving a meat skeleton. But I was thinking, I don't feel quite right. And yet through all the tests, the results are all as healthy as I could hope for somebody of my age. Won't tell you how old I am. But there's a moment where you kind of think about who you are and what you are and the body that you have and the face that lives inside your skull and, you know, your hair and everything that goes with it. I don't have a good relationship with the body, my physical appearance. I don't have a good relationship, or I don't have much confidence in my body at all. And so to be given a clean bill of health, it really lifted a weight off my shoulders. And not long after that, I did some walking and I listened to this album. And this album was a friend when I needed a friend. It was listening to me. Not to say that I haven't got friends, of course, but it was these songs that I knew and that I loved and that had meaning to me were talking to me in my ear, going, it's going to be okay. Don't worry, you are not alone. And the song that really leaped out at me, when I listened to the penultimate song on this set actually, is a re-recording in a far less obvious way of the little things that give you away. The first song that most people heard of Songs of Experience that was played live in 2017. I think it's been played live 16 times. I've seen 5 performances of it. And there's a verse in the little things that give you away. And I was walking through London and all of a sudden I just heard this lyric. And I'd heard the lyric, but I'd not heard the lyric. The lyric saw me. And it spoke to me about what it is. And you think this lyric could be about a panic attack, but it had a meaning where it really struck me. And it was, sometimes I can't believe my existence. I see myself from a distance and I can't get back inside. Sometimes the air is so anxious, all my thoughts are so reckless, and all my innocence has died. And sometimes awake at 4 in the morning where all the darkness is swarming and it covers me in fear. And I was like, oh God, yeah, I've been there. So let's go through the lyrics of that. Sometimes I can't believe my existence. I am very much a glass half full kind of guy. My life now is where I have wanted it to be all my life. It's the place where I've been working towards all my life. You chip away bits, if your life is like a block of stone, you chip away all the bits that don't look like you. And over the past few years, my life has got completely to the point where it's very close to what I would want it to be. Obviously, I'd like robot butlers and hovercraft and stuff and loads of money. But aside from that, my existence is, and I've been really, really lucky to be able to do this, I've achieved pretty much as good as my childhood hopes could ever have been. My childhood hopes when I was growing up were that I would find somebody that would like me, that I would love hanging out with, I'd have a nice home, I'd hopefully have, children and a family and cats, and I'd be able to see the bands that I love, and I'd really like my life. And that's exactly where my life is these days, and I'm incredibly lucky to have that. It doesn't mean that the monsters don't swarm around inside my head. It doesn't mean that because there is still a voice that says, you're ugly, you're not funny, you're fat and bald and say stupid things and nobody really likes you. And even though people tell you that's not the case, it doesn't mean your head listens to that. My head was still going, yeah, but they're just faking it. They're just being nice because they don't want to upset you. And all those insecurities kind of bubble up to the surface. So when you see myself from a distance, that's that lyric is where you go, bearing in mind, like you, I have a vested interest in my own self. But you kind of take a step away from that and you kind of go, is this what I really am? No, it isn't. It doesn't stop your brain telling you that that's the case. And then there's the lyric about I can't get back inside. So you can't get back to who you used to be. You can't sneak back inside yourself. Once you're outside, it's really difficult to get back inside the world. And there's this lyric about sometimes the air is so anxious and all my thoughts are so reckless and all of my innocence has died. Yeah, I've got anxiety. I've got medication for anxiety. I'm not going to pretend that I don't. I worry a lot about everything. I worry about me, and I worry about the world, and I worry about my relationship to the world. And when it goes, my thoughts are so reckless, and it feels like my innocence has died. And if you've got that anxiety, one of your ways of coping sometimes can be to do things that are reckless or not innocent. So it could be drinking, or it could be something else, or it could be drugs or whatever. And I kind of listened to that and I went, yeah, all of my thoughts are reckless. It's like, I'm going to live forever. I'll be okay. I'll do the things that are dangerous because they feel good, because it makes my anxiety go away. And those are things that make you realise that you're not innocent, or that you don't have a purity around that. And that's where that kind of goes. And then there's the one where sometimes I wake up 4 in the morning and all of my darkness is swarming and it covers me in fear. And when I was really, really poorly a couple of years ago, it was one of those in the middle of the night, not quite 4 in the morning, but not far off kind of experiences, when the world is dark and the clouds have covered the sun and everything's gone to sleep, and I was sat there on my own. I mean, I wasn't on my own, but there was nobody that I knew. I was surrounded by healthcare professionals, and it was, that moment where you suddenly realise in the middle of the night that I always have a view: you should never make decisions after about 10 o'clock at night or when you're hungry. And so, when you make a decision at 4 in the morning, it's normally not a good one. But that was the position that I was in. Is it was like it was 4 in the morning and the darkness was swarming, and all the fears were there, and they were telling me, "You're going to die. You're not going to live forever. You aren't invincible. You aren't special." And I was just, covered in fear, because I was kind of going, I'm not ready. I don't feel ready. I have plenty of time ahead of me. There's so much more I want to do. And that, when I heard that, it just hit me. And I'm like, God damn it, I've been through something pretty traumatic, actually. And somehow I'm over the other side of it. And, you know, that's a song on their 14th album. You thought, well, how many songs can you do? You know, at that point, obviously, AC/DC are still doing a song called Cover You in Oil about a big gun that's going to fire and all that stuff and nonsense. I'm kind of going, no, this is a song that's about, to me at least, that talks to me and lets me know I'm not alone with those thoughts or those feelings or those fears or those anxieties. Everybody has them. Hell, even Bono has them, right? Well, that's heavy. And that's the whole of this album. It's like an intimate fireside chat from U2, talking about the songs that have made them who they are, that have put them to where they are today, and examining their relationship with those songs now, and going, if those songs were U2 songs now, and you weren't wedded to the arrangements which had happened previously, what would they sound like? And this is what they sound like. They sound like wonderful curiosities. Not essential. You don't need this. If you're a U2 fan, this is great, but it's not necessary. You know, buy it, but don't think it's going to be the next Joshua Tree. It absolutely isn't. Even though it does have 4 songs from the Joshua Tree on it. No, there's 4 songs from Boy. There's 3 from War, 4 from the Joshua Tree, 2 from The Unforgettable Fire, 2 from Rattle and Hum, Desire, which is sung mostly by Edge, and All I Want Is You. There's 4 from Acting Baby, so those will be the Fly, 1, Until the End of the World and Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, 2 from Zeropa, so Stay and Dirty Day, and then there's 1 from Pop, If God Will Send His Angels, which again was a song that I heard the other day, and I felt like I was hearing the songs for the first time. There's 4 from All That You Can't Leave Behind, so those would be Beautiful Day, Stuck in a Moment, Walk On, and Peace on Earth. There's 1 from the Best Of, which is The Electrical Storm. 4 from How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, so that will be City of Blinding Lights, Vertigo, Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own, and another one, which I can't remember now. And then you get 4 from Songs of Innocence, so you get Lights of Home, Cedarwood Road, and you know, you get 3 from Songs of Innocence, so you get the little things that give you away. Actually, no, Lights of Home is on Songs of Experience. Yeah, but there's a lot of later songs that are on here, and some of those, in their versions and their arrangements, are absolutely revelatory. Because you're going, that's the song. The other stuff that goes in it, the version performed by U2 on the records, the version that they play in the stadiums, that's one version of the song. This is the song with everything stripped away. This is the story that sits right at the heart of the song. You know, and some of U2's best songs get some of their best performances on here. Every Breaking Wave is phenomenal. Walk On is I prefer it to the studio version. Then there's Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own, a very underrated song, and Miracle Drug, one of my very favourite U2 songs, is on here. But I think probably the highlight for me is Two Hearts Beat as One. You know, I never thought that I'd be listening to The Edge singing Two Hearts Beat of One and for it to sound like Chic or Sister Sledge or something. It's just got this lovely, funky, curiously relaxed sound, which you don't often get on U2 albums. U2 albums are so stoic and so serious and so dramatic, and you don't get a song which is just, yeah, we're just going to play music and it's going to be fun and that's going to be it. But you do get that. So Two Hearts Beat of One is, in my opinion, probably one of the best songs on this album. In fact, pretty much the last 4 songs are very, very solid. Two Hearts Beat as One, Miracle Drug, The Little Things That Give You Away, and 40. And it's no coincidence that the first song is 1 and the last song is 40 on a 40-song album. There's a reason behind all of these, and those are also, 2 of the 40 songs, which are the titles which go into the Surrender book. There are a number of other things that have happened around about the same time. So there was an Apple Music documentary with Zane Lowe. There was an NPR radio broadcast on the Tiny Desk sessions. There was a Sort of Homecoming, which was a walk around Dublin with a live performance, which was on Netflix. And there was a 3-song session for the BBC, which featured Vertigo and I can't remember now, One, and also a new previously unrecorded in the studio by U2 cover version, ABBA's SOS. And of course, it's no coincidence that Songs of Surrender has the initials SOS. The concept of Songs of Surrender is that of surrendering to the song, surrendering to what is in the song, taking the ideas and preconceptions that you have around what the song is and just letting go of that. It's a song of surrender. It's letting the song tell you what it needs to be as opposed to what you think the song should be. The songs are playing U2 on this record. It's not U2 playing the songs, and it's a lovely place to be, is to understand that this is not an amazing, new, fantastic, earth-shattering statement from U2. This is U2's Fireside Confessional. The bit where they go, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I shouldn't be here. I should be dead, and I can see the lights in front of me." It's an essential part of the U2 puzzle, but it's not a big, enormous U2 statement. It is U2 looking back at their pasts as old men now. Sorry, they are making sense of how they got to where they are today and the decisions that they've made upon the way. And you don't have to like it. Almost definitely some of you will hate it, and you don't have to listen to it. But for those of us that do see the benefit and find the beauty in that, this is a really, really good, really solid album. And I'm very pleased it exists. It was the comfort that I needed, because certainly recently my anxieties have been very high. My health anxiety has been enormous. My ego and my self-perception has been racked with terror about who am I and what am I and what should I be? Am I, ugly, fat, bald, unattractive, awful? Am I dying? All of those type of things. And sometimes what you need is a voice that's in your head and a hand that's on your shoulder and just telling you it's going to be okay. And that was this album for me earlier on this week. I really, really love Songs of Surrender. I hope you do, but I know some of you don't, and I still love you anyway. So that's going to be me wrapping up my very long monologue about U2's Songs of Surrender album. Take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful, and I will see you really, really soon. And it's been, as I said, I've been out 3 times this week, and it's been lovely to see friends, and it's lovely to go dancing, and it's lovely to feel alive. And I really thought at one point that I wasn't ever going to feel quite like that again, and I feel really hopeful about the future, and that I feel that I've come through the other side of a pretty traumatic experience, because nothing lasts forever, not even nothing itself. That's a lyric I should sell to Bono. If you want to buy that off me, Bono, my rates are very, very reasonable indeed. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up here. Take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.